Cool.
Welcome to Making More Money for You with Magnus Carter. Whether you feel that you don't have enough money to start investing or are under the preconceived notion that investing is only for the wealthy, Magnus and his expert guests are here to help you. Now here is your host, Magnus Carter.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Magnus Carter. You are definitely listening to the Making More Money for You show on Voice America Business Channel. I want to take a few moments to thank my last week's guest, Mr. Kawakawa, for with Simply Cash Flow for being on the show and telling us all about multi-home dwelling units and how to invest in them and how to actually get started with it. That was a great show, which means that brings us up to today's show is going to be another different feat because we're going to go in a completely different direction of actually going from tech company startups to actually automated systems that do everything for you. And for me, I have guest Will Basta from Ascend Ecom. Welcome to the show, Will.
Hey, Magnus, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely, Will. So, after reading your bio and talking with you for a little bit, just before the show and whatnot, how did you get started in investing from going from a healthcare major from Arizona State to actually investing in tech companies and going to tech companies?
Yeah. So I will just sort of clarify that a little bit. I mean, I wanted to be clinical initially,
Okay.
clinical as in going down the doctor MD route. I quickly realized clinical was not for me. And then after graduating, it was more of how do I get involved in the industry of healthcare, but not be clinical. And that led me into health technology, right? So
Okay.
I worked for about 10 years. I worked for a multitude of health tech startups that were bringing pretty much innovative software solutions to the clinical practice and to patients to sort of improve quality outcomes for patients in all different in all different specialties, from cardiology to mental health to nephrology. So it was a startup environment, and I was under as a W-2 at that point. But in that environment, you get it's very fast paced, and there's a
Okay.
lot of parallels you can draw between working for a startup that's got sub 20 employees, where you have a role but you're really wearing 1,000 different hats, to actually being an entrepreneur. So I found that fast paced environment very, very intriguing. I did love healthcare, but while I was doing that, I was also getting involved in different opportunities in the digital space. Everything from e-commerce to digital marketing, et cetera. And that sort of led to an investment in the automated space where we are today, which is an investment in a so-called competitor of my current company at that time.
Oh,
Yeah, like
really?
we were interested in e-commerce and the ability to invest in assets in e-commerce, knowing that it is the future. I'm specifically on Amazon, and I already had experience on Amazon on the side. And there's these businesses that were popping up that were doing all this for you, considering I was still employed and didn't have much time on my hands.
Mhm.
And so a great model, right? When you can invest with someone who's an expert in the space and they can handle the investment in e-commerce for you. But my business partner and I quickly started to realize after that investment, we unraveled the inefficiencies in the industry. We said, hey, this is a great model all around, but I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing. And
Okay.
so that's where my company spawned. We took a broken model that was out there, which is technically, you can use the buzz term Amazon automation or e-commerce automation, because
Mhm.
those companies are popping up everywhere. They are everywhere right now too, but most of them are ineffective, right? And so we took that model and we essentially refined it, brought in our acumen, our experience, and flipped the script on how to build a company like that by focusing on logistics and infrastructure first in a digital space. Cut to, yeah, now we're pretty well established, I'd say. So
Oh, that's wonderful, especially with Amazon. Uh, I have tried it. I've failed, and when I tried it,
yeah.
it was a very bad. It was a very bad economy because everybody stopped working, everybody stopped selling. So I can attest to. the flaws in the system, especially. And that's one reason why I looked at that as a, like we were talking about before, was a digital asset and also an income stream. And that's when I
Yeah,
actually decided to fully fledge my time and my energy to publishing and writing and whatnot. So it's
yeah.
still there that I want to keep doing it, but your company wasn't around when I was started looking at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I mean, this is not, our clients, we've got almost 500 clients now, two warehouse facilities in Dallas, an office here in Los Angeles, which I'm currently at right now, and hundreds of employees, millions of revenue. And the commonality between all of our clients of investors, I mean, they have all different backgrounds, school teachers, people who are getting their graduate degree, retirees, veterans, financial sector, real estate, you name it.
Right,
Most of them don't have time, right?
exactly.
So they're investing with us because we handle pretty much 99% of the legwork, and we're essentially an infrastructure that's already well established. So if we reverse back to your situation a few years ago, right? Instead of you putting, blood, sweat, and tears into this,
Mhm,
and you know, probably having failure before you have success, which I've
mhm,
had in the past too. You would invest with an organization like us where you still own the business outright, but we actually leverage our infrastructure, our team, our data, our warehouses, everything that we've built that's
right.
extremely expansive in this space, and a pretty well-oiled machine. And we leverage that on behalf of you for your business, and then you just sit back and collect the check as your asset appreciates and as it begins to cash flow.
Oh, that would have made things a lot easier, and Amazon is definitely not going anywhere. If anything, they constantly keep expanding. Everywhere you turn around, they're expanding, warehousing, and they own fleets, like a
Yeah,
small country worth of vehicles that they deliver everything to, because they have the 1 day shipping, the 2 day shipping.
yeah,
Even some areas are same day, which is
yeah. They
insane.
got same day. We also work with Walmart as well, which is a massively emerging platform. Surprisingly enough, like they've been around forever, but their
Mhm,
e-commerce has been lackluster. But
right,
there's an $18 billion initiative right now on their e-commerce third-party selling platform. So under 200,000 sellers still, but yeah. So there's fulfillment by Amazon, which is your Amazon Prime. We also work on FBM, which is fulfillment by merchant.
mhm,
Because we have our own warehouse facilities that are exclusively ours, we don't share any kind of warehousing or infrastructure like a lot of these organizations do. That was one of the problems we saw back in the day, was people saying that they have their own warehouse facility when it's really like Deliver with two
mhm,
R's they're using, or they're using ShipHawk or some third party logistics company
right,
that they're sending their clients' products to, and therefore there's zero prioritization, right? But we're able to do FBM and actually fulfill directly out of our warehouse as well, and have that be that prep center, which keeps margins high, keeps fluidity in the actual supply chain, and on top of that, it keeps the ability to have more transparency into what's actually going on with your business, because you can actually visit. We are not hiding behind any screens as a company. It's a digital space these days, but I think it's important to still have some brick and mortar,
mhm.
whether or not you need a warehouse facility or not. We still have our office here, which clients come to too. So being able to shake hands, or at least having that option when you're investing a good chunk of change, I think is pretty important as well.
Oh, wow. That's diversity right there. Now, let's go back a little bit here before you got everything all ironed out. When you did work with these tech startups, now, did you jump from company to company, uh, trying to advance, or were you trying to
Uh,
figure out how you were doing?
yeah, I mean,
Um,
yes and no. My first stint was I actually worked for a large organization called DaVita, which is a dialysis company, but they had a tech startup within them, right? So I was
okay,
under the umbrella of DaVita, which is a Fortune 500 company, massive healthcare organization in the US. It's $1 billion company, but they have subsidiaries, right? And
right.
so I was under their tech arm with about 30 employees. I learned healthcare under that organization. Once I left them, my real thing was working for companies that I saw were making an impactful difference in whatever specialty they were in.
Okay.
Pretty much, equipping physicians and patients to improve outcomes, right?
Mhm.
And most of the time, it was a company that had less employees, and I knew that I could have an integral part of their growth, right? Where I can look back in a
Right.
year and say, "Hey, look where this is now. Like, look what I brought to the table here." That's a gratifying feeling. I probably worked for about three or four, and I consulted on the side. So
Okay.
I'd help other on the side. I was also working for I mean, you have the word startup is that term can mean literally the founder
Right.
and that's it, or it could honestly mean a 300 employee. Like I consider us a startup still, even though we've been around for 3 years and we've got 500 clients, 300 employees, and millions of revenue.
Hmm.
We're still a startup in that stage, in the sense where we're constantly growing and we're improving day by day as we learn, where we need to improve upon, right?
Right.
Um, so I think my point is it's a general term, and so it's hard to really
Very.
distinguish like what is a real startup. So there's plenty of them out there that had 3, 4, 5 employees where I would consult with as well and sort of like see the real raw beginnings of these companies, and sort of give my input because I've worked for established and non-established companies and help them build out pretty much their business development programs, their marketing, operations and sales, and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. So all that, the years of experience that you've gained from that, that led you to create your own company then, your Ascend E-commerce?
Yeah,
Or did you?
yeah, it was. I think it was. That's all part of the journey.
Mhm.
Uh, at the end of the day, but what really spawned it is that what I mentioned previously was being invested in a program which we saw so much potential in that just wasn't done right, and we just knew we could do it better. And then when we were thinking about how we could do it better, when you combine Jeremy, my business partner, and my experience, I mean, I had that experience working for companies at that kind of stage, the startup stage, right? So that's integral experience regardless of the industry. That's part of the process of building out a company from ground one, um, and then from the ground floor. And then Jeremy worked already for a large e-commerce company at one point. He was getting his MBA from Michigan, and so he runs operations for our company. And we both wear a lot of different hats. But my point is, there was a lot of synergy in terms of our experience both in e-commerce and also traditionally in business,
Okay.
and in the tech world, where we knew we could bring that experience and integrate it into the actual growth of this organization and do it the right way. Because a lot of the companies that were out there, I don't want to speak for every company because there are good players besides us. They're just hard to come by. Most of them were, a lot younger people right out of college thinking they could just start a company, outsourcing
Mhm.
almost every part of their processes. Maybe they were some kind of guru on Amazon for once and they thought they can automate things. And a lot of these things are like you could be successful on Amazon once. It doesn't mean you're successful at building and running a company or
Right.
an organization. Those are two different things. And so I think a lot of the inefficiencies came from the fact that a lot of these people don't know how to run a company itself, whether or not they know how to build an Amazon business, because there's a lot more layers to it than just making a successful Amazon business when you
Yeah.
want to have a scalable organization that's providing an investment opportunity, um, to people. So
Okay. Now, with all these different layers and actually combining them all together, is your business pretty much modular that you've actually just taken bits and pieces, build it out, and then bring it together? Or did you bring it all together and then start moving things around?
yes and no. I'd like to say that, I like to think that the way that we approached it, specifically in the first year, was we're not going to go 0 to 100 year one. What we're going to do is we're going to get a sample pool of clients
Okay.
organically without running ads, that 10 to 15, which we were able to get over a period of about 3 to 4 months, prove out our model, let them know what they're getting into,
Hmm.
this is sort of a new opportunity and a new way that we're doing this. And we've never ran an organization like this. So be transparent in the business model itself, right? And our experience in doing it. And what we did is we did that for a year, proving out all of our operational things that we knew that we had to have in place for when we actually go to the market with this and start, bringing in larger lead generation. And so, like for example, we knew that we needed our own warehouse. We didn't get that in the beginning. We got that, probably about a year and a half in, because
Okay.
it was necessary once the volume was at a certain degree. About 60 clients, 70 clients, 100 clients is when we knew we needed our own facility. And so it was one of those things where we planned it out with the first year, knowing where our capacities were before we have to integrate and sort of layer on more parts of the infrastructure. Because you
Hmm.
don't need to get a 20, 30,000 square foot warehouse if you have 10 clients, right? So
No.
we didn't get that in the beginning. Plus, this is bootstrapped. We had zero investors. This is our own money. All the money we're making from clients, we're pumping back into the business. And so the short answer to your question, modular in the fact that it was planned where we would layer these pieces of the business in different phases, knowing
Okay.
ahead of time that we were going to need them once we had a certain degree of revenue and or client base numbers. So
Okay. All right. That's fair enough because you took the time to foresee what can actually happen, and you definitely planned that into your startup. You're starting of the
yeah,
business.
it's extremely important to. I think at the end of the day, when you're starting a company, I think a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs, when they have employees, entrepreneurs in
Mhm.
the sense of actually having their own company, and when it starts to do well and stuff like that, it's very easy to get into the habit of doing everything yourself and not
Right.
hiring, and also getting greedy once the money starts coming in and not pumping it back into the business. That's something we've never done, which I think has been very, very integral to our success, is the fact that we have actually overemployed ourselves, generally with like I'd say anywhere between like an 8 to 16 week lead time. When I say that, I mean like we just opened our second warehouse facility, for example. We
Mhm.
probably don't need it. We opened it in August. Probably don't need it until November. We have a strategy where we don't catch up to ourselves. We are proactive in our
Okay.
growth. It's the same thing with hiring employees. We have always done our best to hire ahead of our growth as opposed to catching up to our growth, because that's when you have growing pains. That's
Mhm.
when you start to bust out of the seams with your growth, and it ends up affecting the actual client experience, and it stains the quality outcome of the actual businesses that we are building for people when you internally become disorganized and fragmented. So I'm not saying we're perfect, because we're not, but
Right.
that's something we kept we're cognizant of, and I think has also helped in our growth, and helped us to get to where we are today.
Oh, that's fantastic planning. What with your planning, how often do you go back and reassess everything with your partners?
I mean, all the time. We assess what's going on. It's such a fast paced business. I
Right.
mean, that's why like I don't. We've got a sales team of about 7 or 8 people. We've got a huge marketing team, huge operations team, huge management team. There's teams all over the place for everything. And so the stuff that I was doing for our business a year ago is not what I do now. Now everything's about innovating, strategical, plans, how we can sort of change business models, advance it to the next level,
Mhm.
reassess what's been done the last 6 months, improve upon that. A lot more of it is a lot more complex when it comes down to my seat and Jeremy's seat and a couple of other people in the leadership category. Uh, so we've gotten to that degree where it's we are constantly looking at, like, I'd say it's almost like every month we look at, how did this month progress? What were the biggest issues this month? What have we achieved? And what is really the plan for the next 3 months? And that plan for the next 3 months could change the following month. Like, it's actually never stayed the same. So it always changes, because there might be some parts of it that will remain intact in terms of what you planned for the future of the business. But as things evolve, we also innovate and we come up with new strategies and new ways to implement new business models for clients. And it's an exciting thing to be a part of, but it's very, very fast paced. And that's why also, where we are today, starting a company 2.5 years ago, and I can confidently say we're number one in the industry right now. It's because we're not spinning the same wheel we were the week before or the month before. We're constantly thinking in a proactive manner. We're also
Okay.
being ethically sound in our practices with our clients. And when we have issues, we face them head on with clients with integrity, and we find solutions. We don't run away from them. And I haven't really seen too much of that in the industry. So it's definitely helped us get to where we are, and it's the mentality we're going to have moving forward.
That's you don't hear that a lot in this day and age with pretty much any company.
Yeah.
And to actually see that you're doing that and putting your values, you have a team of like values that are actually pushing this. And a couple of my shows ago, uh, that is seems to be one of the main things that keeps pushing for success. And that's
Yeah.
one for the listeners out there, we're you're hearing the same information, but from way different aspects from different professionals and in totally different fields. So it has to work as long as you're willing to
Yeah.
put the work in
Yeah.
and do
It's
the
about
work.
doing the right thing and not cutting corners. I don't think cut corners has done good for anyone in this kind of position. So we don't do that. We are constantly putting money into R&D, and we're ensuring that even our clients that might be disgruntled a little bit, we make it right by them for whatever issues they might have had. Because you can't have 500 clients and not have some upset ones for some whatever reason it may be. It could be nominal. You know what I mean? That's just the nature of business, right?
Right.
But we don't ignore those, and we make sure that we want to bring value to everyone, and we want to make sure we're on the same page. So it's an important factor when it comes down to running a company like this, and also it leads to your mentality as a leader when you have a company growing at this trajectory. It's having that mindset is very important personally as well, because then you can wake up every day and know you're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? There's too many companies out there that are cutting corners on shit and
Right.
leaving information out on clients, and they're investing a good amount of money. Why would you not want to be a transparent company unless you're doing something fishy? You know what I mean? So
Yes.
doors are open on our warehouse, doors are open on everything we do, and we're here to make sure that everyone has those questions answered, and we're fixing the issues that arise when they do. So
Well, and it's good that the issues arise because
yeah,
it gives you an opportunity to advance on them, to actually figure something
totally.
out.
Yeah. They when those problems happen, because like
Right.
say when a problem happens, it's not like our whole client base gets affected with the same
No.
issue, right? But when there's a new issue, we say,
Mhm.
oh shit, okay, we can't let this happen with anyone ever again.
Mhm.
So, but it got, of course, that one client was a guinea pig, unfortunately, right? So we do right by them, and we make
Okay.
sure that that is resolved, rectified in whatever manner it may be. And this could be small, right? We don't really have large issues that arise all the time. It's just more of basic operational things. That's why I still look at this as a startup, because
Mhm.
you still have to make sure there's still refinement always with operations. We're not perfect in that, but there's we're a lot better than a lot of other organizations, and I just always look at it as there's always room for improvement, right? But we take those issues that we have, and number one is making it right by the client, having them move past it, right, and keeping the partnership strong and the trust there, and then also making sure that we have preventative measures in place to avoid this from ever happening again in the future. So
And then your paperwork and your documentation always update it with this because it's not just you that's running the company. As long as you're transparent with your clients, but also with your workers. Am I right? Your
yeah, I
employees.
mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I'm not seeing it, every issue we have doesn't come across my plate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Come across
Right.
my desk, plate, desk, or whatever the saying is, right? You know what I mean? It's like if it gets escalated, I might have a couple of months where it's truly escalated to me, where they're really looking for serious input on my end.
Mhm.
I'll see a few issues prior to that, but um, you know, we have we have employees in place that are really really good at what they do. So they see what's happening first, right? I only am aware of some of the at the end when we do the like you just mentioned before, when we reassess the business. Yeah, the most looming issues of that month we'll discuss, right? Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of ones that are just basic and it's not even an issue and the client thinks it is, and we can fix that in 2 seconds, right?
Right.
I personally don't have time to go over those kind of things, but the ones that have enough weight are the ones that we take it leadership takes in, and then we look at plans ahead with our actual leadership of our whatever division it is, if it's customer success, operations, finance, whatever, um, and we put an action plan together to prevent it, kind of thing. And so everyone's fully aware always. It's crazy if you looked at, even if you joined as a client in six months ago to compared to joining as a client now, it was great back then, but like it's so much better right now. So it's wild to think about it. We always think we're so great, and then we look back 6 months later, and it's like, wow, look where we are right now, and that is awesome for not only the employees but also for the clients that have been with us early on and seen the train just progress. You know what I mean, in the right
Right.
direction. Whether it's warehouse expansion, whether it's um, you know, pretty much our tech stack in terms of how we communicate with our clients and how we collect the data of their business and the progress, financial analytics, et cetera, progress on their businesses, revenue driving aspects of their business, just access to new products, wholesalers, whatever it may be. Uh, there's a whole list of things that have improved, right? And it's cool to always assess that. I think look at it in every 6 months because you can see a bigger picture of where a business has
Right.
been in 6 months, especially in a year, right? And it's monumental every 6 months, I'd say.
Oh, you see the every 6 months. Plus, you see all the things that happened within those 6 months that actually drove it, like
Yeah.
the current affairs and the way the world is working right now. Uh, this and you can also also see trends with that when you look back to 6 months? Do you see certain trends that start to populate over even the 2 years
Uh,
that you've started?
I mean, I haven't read into the data that much. I mean, there's obviously it depends how we pull the data and what you mean by trends. I mean, there's trends for products, there's trends
Mhm.
for sales and progress and client stories.
Right.
There's also trends for our growth because
Right.
right now people are concerned about real estate investing because it's pretty inflated right now. I'm not saying it's
Mhm.
you shouldn't invest in real estate, but it's pretty expensive depending on where you are and
Oh, yeah.
whatever. And rates are bad and all that kind of stuff, right? And then you have stock market, which was
That
really on a
yeah.
serious downturn up until like yesterday. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
it's just volatile. Crypto has crashed and is
Mhm.
sitting in a bear market at the moment. Inflation's at 8% or whatever the number is right now. And if you have cash in the bank, you're losing money. So it's
Right.
where are you going to invest if your traditional investments are not there? But you see Amazon trucks coming around the neighborhood every single day. And Amazon's
Every time.
projected to grow 8% in this Q4 from last Q4 in this past year. That might be less than it would have done without inflation, but it's still growing. So e-commerce is only 16% of the market right
Mhm.
now, and it's going to be 95% of all purchases in about 20 years, a little under 20 years. And so people look at, hey, okay, well, Amazon is, e-commerce is a market I want to tap into. It just passed the 5 trillion mark this year. And
Mhm.
so when I say that, I mean, we've seen an uptick in client interest over the last few months since inflation has really been on the news. Uh, Surprisingly, we've been, you know what I mean? We've had more people come to us because, and I'm talking about investors that are well seasoned, maybe not in e-commerce, but financially, and also ones that aren't. But people are looking for that alternative investment, something that's
Mhm.
sustainable. You know what I mean? And so we've had a swath of people come in our direction looking for a true partner in the space. And that's definitely a trend based on, I attribute it to the financial market right now and the
Mhm.
minimal opportunities that there are in terms of investing in a manner that's secure.
I agree. And wow, well, we are already done the first half of the show.
That
It,
was
w- it,
quick.
it was extremely quick. We did talk about your startup, how you started, how you got from the health tech industry to the tech startups to actually uh, FBAs and starting your own company. And we're actually in the middle of how you're actually assessing your companies at the moment. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back,
Yeah,
we're going to go a deeper dive into this and see where Ascend Ecom is actually going to go next.
awesome.
Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I have my special guest Will Basta, and I'm your host Magnus Carter, and we're going to be right back.
You are clear.
That flew by.
Did. I wasn't even looking at the time. Yeah. Great.
No, I have my little chat open. It's like, oh, you got three minutes. I'm like, wait, what? So it's like, oh, all right. That was extremely fast and a lot of great content in there. Let's see here. Well, that's a great article that you did back in March.
Which one?
Ascend Ecom works to bring transparency to the
Ah,
e-commerce
was that
industry.
Yahoo? I think maybe.
Ax Business Insider.
Okay. Yeah. We're sort of all over the place right now. So
Well, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
yeah, for
What?
sure.
Yeah, when you can't keep track of it, it's going good.
Coming back, gentlemen.
Oh, okay.
You're listening to Making More Money for You with Magnus Carter. If you have any questions for Magnus or his guests, join us on the show at 866-472-5789. That's 866-472-5789. Now back to the show. Here is Magnus Carter.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm Magnus Carter. This show, we're actually talking about e-commerce, tech startups, and streamlining a different type of income and growing digital assets to invest in your portfolio. With me to do that, I have Will Basta from Ascend Ecom. Welcome back, Will.
Good to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. The first half of the show flew by, not gonna lie. We talked about everything from your startup, your initial startup in startup companies, health tech, and actually seeing a flaw in e-commerce and taking that flaw and building your own company that's completely that has transparency throughout the whole process with your customers and your clients and your workers. And that brings us to like right here with Ascend Ecom.
Yeah, I mean that's what we stand by is transparency. It's growth, transparency, sustainability. We want people to look at e-commerce as a sustainable asset, not something that's like quick passive income and your store gets shut down, or it's not looked at long term. Historically, it wasn't looked at long term, and it wasn't also approached in a long term manner from anyone who's providing it as a service. So that's what we switched was approaching an e-commerce investment as a true digital asset that will appreciate over time. That's a sustainable venture that can produce cash flow as well, but also be a form of digital real estate, just like the internet boom in the 90s. If I had babies.com, that'd be worth a good amount of money. Just like if you have a good business on Amazon or in the digital space, that's going to be worth a good amount of money if it's done right. So we really wanted to change the mentality around it, as well as just how providers like us operate and legitimize the space.
Absolutely. And on the big company side, Amazon, Walmart, they thrive on businesses like yours because they're making a lot of money on it because they're going to get repeat customers. Am I
Yeah,
right?
I mean, over 50% of Amazon's revenue from Amazon.com, this is not including like Prime Video and stuff like that, comes from third-party sellers. So the basis of the products that you're receiving when you purchase on Prime and non-Prime is always non-Amazon, but Prime specifically, like roughly 60-70% of that is actually owned by third-party sellers, just coming out of an Amazon warehouse. And they make money off storage fees. They make 15%, roughly. It can vary depending on the product category of the product sales and stuff like that. So they're making a killing, and they're also controlling their own brand if it's through Prime. They love you if you do it the right way, if you do it compliantly, if you don't cut corners. If you're doing it in a manner where you're doing it as a partnership with Amazon and not trying to beat around them, kind of thing. And that's when stores get in trouble. And a lot of companies out there will do that specific thing. They'll leave out the truth of how to approach a business within terms of service of Amazon, and they'll get clients' investments locked up with Amazon, because Amazon can be pretty powerful and pretty evil if you try to cross their line in a manner that is against their rules. And they can hold your money for as long as they like. So it's always good to play by the book. Just do it the right way, and you'll last longer and you'll have a more profitable business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to speak to that is if they don't like the way a certain products being sold or whatnot, they'll just take over and not allow anybody else to sell it. That's horrible, especially one of the lucrative ones that you have a good margin with.
They to speak to that, historically they're a big data company, right? So they're collecting data on products. They will develop an Amazon Basics product to replace slice from the margins because they have more money, or source it themselves because they have more money and they can do that. I do have some inside information on that apparently, I don't say it's too inside anymore, because I've seen a couple articles written about Amazon sort of stepping back a little bit from their Amazon Basics categories. I think it's turning into a little bit more of a monopoly situation. They might have government or federal pressure on them because it's like almost like they're taking over too much. So I think that has sort of, they've stepped out a little bit of that. I'm not saying it's not a risk. I say the biggest risk in investing with Amazon and having inventory is Amazon coming in there and undercutting you, right? Not really a competitor when it comes down to an Ascend client. But that's why we balance out our portfolios for clients on Amazon. We're doing a mix of FBM, we're doing a mix of FBA, we're doing a mix of private label products, we're doing a mix of wholesale distribution products, we're doing a mix of basic arbitrage.
Okay.
There's you mitigate risk by touching on multiple different fulfillment and product sourcing strategies. That's at the end of the day, that's how you're going to have a more profitable business, because it opens up doors for diversity and capital allocation as well. If one category is doing better, if a wholesaler might run out of a product, you can pump more of your money into another product that's doing well, et cetera, et cetera. So
it's sort of like when you invest in the stock market. Instead of investing in one stock, you invest in a mutual fund that spreads everything over. And
exactly, and you could even look at it at a more macro scale of e-commerce in general. If you have the capital, don't just buy one business, or don't just start one Amazon business. Every Amazon store will have a different trajectory. Every Amazon store will have a different product mix. Every Amazon store will essentially, you can put more emphasis on private label, and maybe, like, again, allocating your capital to a slightly different strategy on another Amazon store if you have a bundle of them in your portfolio. And then there's also Walmart, so you can cross sell products on both that are doing well, and most of the time you're going to have higher margins on Walmart, maybe slightly less foot traffic depending on the category. But at the end of the day, the easiest way to look at it is you're covering more ground. Why not cover more ground? You know what I mean? And also, why not mitigate risk? Because who knows what might happen with one store. I'm not saying it's going to get terminated, but who knows what might happen with maybe a product on one store falls flat for a little bit. You can make up with that. You can also give you the ability to sell an asset and keep one for passive. So you don't want to be in a position in 3 years where you only have one Amazon business that's doing well. You could sell it for $500,000, or you could keep it at generating you 15 grand a month in profit. Like, that's sort of a tough decision, to be honest with you.
Right.
So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you want that big chunk of change, but that could be worth more later on, which probably will be. And also, you're getting consistent money. You don't need 500K at once most of the time. 15 grand a month is great for passive income. So point is that there's diversification within e-commerce, not only diversifying out of regular investments into e-commerce, but once you're in e-commerce, having a diverse portfolio of businesses within e-com is a whole other conversation to have. And then diversifying how those businesses are actually run in terms of fulfillment and product sourcing. So you can keep peeling back the layers of diversification in terms of when you start this business, why to get into it, and then how to actually approach the business, and then how that business actually runs itself. So
wow, that's a lot more options than when I looked into it. And a lot
these are
less
the kind
headaches.
of things that you're not going to hear this stuff from some guru on YouTube. This is how these real businesses should be run. And that's why we got to where we are today, is because we have a real approach to this. There's no fluff, no smoke. This is about real investment management in this space that is emerging and growing at an insane rate. 7 to 8 trillion in the next few years industry. So yeah, a lot of growth ahead.
Well, plus everybody has a cell phone that they order from. If you don't have, we want it today, or we want it tomorrow. If not, we don't want it at all. Is more
There's
likely.
that. Yeah, it's important. It's also, you have to look at the fact that, like, people, they might have that question of, like, they don't understand that it's not just selling toys on Amazon. We're selling necessities, food, baby products, cleaning supplies, automotive stuff. Like, these are things that you need day to day. So yeah, there's impulsive purchases, but even if in economic downturns like we currently are in right now, people still, they might be reducing money on gas and buying stuff online. I mean, and the pandemic only, what it did is it brought more lifelong shoppers online. So this is not some kind of bubble thing, because technically right now, where e-commerce is, I know I mentioned before the break that e-commerce is roughly 16% of the retail market. Like, people shop, 16% of shopping comes online, right? That's the easiest way to look at it, right? What was predicted before the pandemic, at this point, we'd be at like 13%. So the pandemic had a bubble in 2020, but that bubble bursted and it didn't really drop below what was predicted. It actually stayed above what was predicted. So it accelerated the inevitable in terms of online shopping. And it made that shopper that might pick up the kids from school and go directly to Walmart to get groceries shop online during the pandemic and they've never shopped online before, became comfortable shopping online.
Right.
And now they pass Walmart and they go directly home and go to walmart.com. You know what I mean? So those kind of, it brought on shoppers that normally would not have been comfortable doing it. And the beauty about Walmart and the beauty about Amazon lockers too, is that you have the capability. Walmart specifically, they're leveraging this a lot, is 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart, right?
Right.
That's 90% of the US. They are using Walmart not only as it's not only, physical marketing all across America,
Mhm.
but it is also pretty much a logistics center. People can purchase online and pick up at Walmart too.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? And then you just like Amazon lockers, right? So there's just so much opportunity that is ahead with this, and Walmart's an exciting conversation to have, simply because they are in their infancy phases, ironically, given how large they are as a company, in their e-commerce initiative. So how they're
Yeah,
going
they
to be,
were
yeah.
yeah, they were mainly based on uh the store locations, because I remember way back when Walmart first started becoming super centers, and uh the CEO at the time did an interview. I think it was on either CNN or one of the business channels. It might have been a different one. Is they would rather sacrifice or self cannibalize their profits to put a Walmart 15 miles away from each other instead of losing that extra money. And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's insane.
It's pretty wild. Like they were the number one retailer up until last year. Amazon
Mhm.
surpassed them, um, not by a lot. They're pretty much head on, face to face in terms of revenue, um, and that's brick and mortar revenue and e-commerce revenue
Right.
combined. I was thinking Amazon doesn't have. They do have some brick and mortar actually. Amazon does have those like Amazon stores you can walk in and walk out, and it charges your Prime account, which is pretty funny.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I've been in one of those. They're I don't know how long they're gonna last, but it's it's sort of weird. It's sort of it's like them trying to go backwards in a way. But I don't. Well, I forgot the point I was actually just trying to make there. Uh, in terms of God, yeah, where I just had a brain. Uh, what direction were we just going? We were talking
We're
about Walmart.
actually self-cannibalizing, adding more customers to their platform by taking a little away
Yeah,
from
yeah. Sorry.
another location.
It's just crazy because they didn't have real access, they didn't have open access to third party sellers up until a few years ago, which is like insane when you see Amazon's growth via third party sellers,
Right.
right? And then they opened the floodgates a couple years ago, and they opened it up without being prepared, and they had so many non-compliant sellers on their platform, and they bit off more than they can chew. The volume was insane. There was all these horrible reviews. It was like
Mm.
imploding. That actually about a year ago, they had 100,000 sellers and they just sliced them in half. They just terminated 50,000 sellers. It was hurt on the stock market. It was hurt all over the place. Their e-commerce platform was just like huge halt, like whoa, we need to slow down kind of thing. Um, Now they're in the 100,000 plus sellers
Right.
again. There's a lot of things they need to fix. Their seller platform the tech is a little bit funky, right? There's all these inefficiencies that are there, but the beauty of it is that there's less competition. Therefore, your margins are way higher, and there's way more products that you can't find on Walmart that you can find on Amazon, which
Yeah.
means there's more opportunity to sell different products on Walmart. So getting in as a seller now is great. We would never guide anyone to make their first investment in e-commerce to be Walmart. You want to start with the sustainable venture of Amazon. Amazon's like your index fund. Walmart's like your crypto investment. It's a little
Gotcha.
bit higher risk, higher return. It's slightly volatile just because they're still
Mhm.
figuring out what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Amazon might take a little bit longer for the business to get to a degree that's really, really cash flowing, but it's stable. The platform is sustainable, and we know how to get you there. And it actually is a proven asset that you can sell. Walmart isn't necessarily there yet. I can't say the same in terms of building a Walmart business out and selling it in a year. I don't know if there's going to be opportunity on the market that soon, given the inefficiencies on the tech platform. But Walmart, I know, or Amazon, I know there is. There's a huge market for selling businesses on Amazon. So there are those like pros and cons. And so a diverse portfolio, every two Amazon businesses you buy, you should have one Walmart, is the way we sort of approach it at Ascend Ecom. It's if you have enough money to purchase a portfolio, three
Okay.
businesses at once. You do two Amazon and one Walmart.
That's diversified right there.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's great. Now, with all these technology advancements, how often are you upgrading your infrastructure with this?
Uh, I mean, we just recently, I touched on it slightly
Yeah, just
before
a
the
little bit
break.
before that we went
Yeah,
through your warehousing and whatnot and scalability, but
click. Yeah, the software, like we just literally migrated to ClickUp. So
okay.
ClickUp is used by companies of all sizes. They're extremely established tech platform from Silicon Valley. We use them for not only communication, but it also integrates with our warehouse. It also gets financial analytics for the client about their business, everything under one roof, as opposed to previously we were doing Google Sheet here, you know, Google Sheet here for some financial stuff,
Right.
and then we had Slack or River we would use, which is like Slack, same thing for communication, and then we had App Sheet, which is our internal app. So we had three different things for a client to check, and now
Oh
it's
my.
consolidated into one.
Okay.
So that's a huge advancement. That migration was a pain in the ass this summer, but it's done. And now every client that comes in now, they don't know the difference. Obviously, they didn't have to go through the migration, and we mitigated any kind of effect on clients as much as possible anyway. But whenever you do a data transfer in tech, it's sort of a pain in the
It's
ass.
and very cross your
Cumbersome.
fingers and like hope it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Now, you said you were based out of Tech. What made you put your warehousing in Texas out of all the country? What
yeah,
made Texas stand out for that?
uh, central location number
Okay.
one. We are 10 minutes from an Amazon distribution center, so we are in a warehouse. It's Grand Prairie for your listeners that are from Texas or familiar with Grand Prairie. It's outside of Dallas.
Okay. I am.
There's
I've been there.
a lot of open land there. We got two facilities next to each other, and the Amazon facility is actually under 10 minutes away. So when you send a product to Amazon's facility, algorithmically, then they'll distribute it out to an FBA center across the U.S. based
Right.
on what the product is, where it makes the most sense for 2 day shipping, where the data tells them, et cetera. Right.
Right.
But when it's centrally located, I think the opportunity is a little more vast, right? If the product's coming from, so the cost might be lower for ship times or whatever it may be. Also, our warehouse manager, Helen, she actually relocated from San Francisco Bay Area, and she has family in the Dallas area. So when we were picking out our locations, she felt comfortable relocating there because also she's got family that are now, some of them are now actually working in the warehouse as well. So there's there's a multitude of reasons. The
Okay.
biggest was location, number one, and then it was obviously who was running the show down there, which is Helen. She's a gem. She's amazing at what she does. Having a relocation is a big deal when you have a family. So she felt comfortable going to Dallas as well. So that's why I picked Dallas over Houston or Dallas over Austin or that kind of thing.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
was just kind of curious because you have Iowa and then you have all the other flat
Yeah.
states there. I was just kind of curious what what
It's
made
true.
Texas.
I mean, also, there's direct flights from LA to Dallas, easy.
Right.
I'm not sure if Dubuque has direct flights from LA. Dubuque, Iowa.
Well, there might be indirect flights there for that one.
No, I was joking, but yeah, it's also a metropolitan in that sense.
Right.
So we could have the best of both worlds, have an established city, right?
Right.
And then also because a lot of our clients are also from Texas too. We run marketing down there as well. We've got some employees from the marketing and sales organization that are in Texas too. And as you know, Texas is in general for tech companies and organizations since the
Mhm.
pandemic specifically. A lot of people have been moving there too. So it just worked out timing wise and just logistically. Overall, it just seemed like the best option. Everything was sort of drawing us in that direction. For additional warehouses, we're at 2 right now. We'll eventually probably have upwards of 4 or 5. The next ones are going to be coast to coast.
Okay.
So we'll probably put one in Florida, not near a natural disaster zone, most likely in northern Florida, potentially Orlando, who knows. And then West Coast, Nevada are our next 2 states we're looking at.
Yeah, I can definitely see Nevada for that. For one, it's desert there, so you really don't have any have any weather, so I can see that.
Yeah, you don't need to
At the
worry
home.
about that, and it's a lot cheaper than California. I mean, I'm not going to put a. I'm in our office is in Venice Beach, so you can't put a warehouse in LA unless we want to go bankrupt. So that's just not happening.
Oh, that makes definitely a lot of sense with everything. So now, where do you see Ascend Ecom going from here? You're already, you're expanded quite a bit. You're constantly expanding. You already have plans for warehousing coast to coast. But where would you like to see it happen? What would you like to
Yeah.
see happen next?
On the next 24-month horizon is global expansion. So we have a lot of markets that are growing faster than the US market for Amazon, which means a lot of opportunity for US sellers as well. Canada is the number one growing market out of the US, not surprised because of proximity.
Right.
After that, it's Germany, the UK, and then Italy. So when I say expansion, there's two ways you can look at it. First way we look at it is as a current client right now or a future client, you are selling on Amazon.com.
Hmm.
Right now, we're testing an Amazon.ca, which is Canada, right?
Right.
The Amazon.com account can also, that seller can get approved to also sell both for Walmart and Amazon
Hmm.
in Amazon.ca, right? So expanding the selling capabilities for current clients into international, having international reach because yeah, there's different products that do well in different areas, but there's also still a lot less products that are sold in the UK than there are in the
Hmm.
US. So there's opportunity for growth categories, right? I see
Right.
massive opportunity there, right? That's number one with that. And then there's also the ability to also expand client options in the US. I mean, in these countries, so we can actually have clients from the UK. We have a partner in the space now that can get U.S. credit and U.S. banking for foreign
Hmm.
for non-citizens. And so we have a network in Chile right now. A current client from Chile. He's got a network of people that are looking to sell as well. Same thing with Spain. We have some Canadian clients. Point is, what I'm trying to get at here is we also can have these UK clients not just sell in the US, but also
Right.
sell in the UK too. So global expansion is probably the next big step for us once we've gotten our warehousing down, like I just mentioned, and we're at the degree where we want to be
Hmm.
in the US, and then we'll take it from there.
Oh, that's wonderful because I can attest to the global markets because my books, the Making More Money for You books, actually sell worldwide, and I have quite a few
Mm,
sales in Japan and also over
yeah,
in the UK, especially on Audible.
yeah,
It's endless out there for what you guys are going to be doing.
yeah. It's. I mean, I actually have a contact, an old friend of mine from university. He used to work. He doesn't work for Amazon anymore. I'm not sure the organization he's with, but he's with them for a few years internationally. He was living in Spain, working for Amazon in the EU, and his specific position, part of his role was sourcing land for FBA warehouses, right?
Oh, okay.
All across the US, or all across Europe, the EU.
You're
And
okay.
what was happening at that time was they were losing about, I don't know if that's the same thing right now, 30 to $40 million minimum per month from FBA because they didn't have enough space for the demand of sellers, right?
Oh my.
So that shows you right there how much growth is ahead in Europe in terms of Amazon. It just like there, it's not even in Denmark. I was just in Copenhagen earlier last month. It's not even in Copenhagen right now. Like there's so much expansion ahead in the EU and Canada in general. So yeah, it's an exciting aspect to look at for sure.
Okay. Wow, that's wonderful news. And unfortunately, Will, we're at the end of the show. We're going to be wrapping things up here. So, if my listeners want to get in touch and learn more about this and actually invest in being an FBA or Walmart um, fulfillment center, how
Yeah,
can they find you and how can
yeah.
they learn more about this?
Yeah, there's information on our website. You can also book an initial educational call with us. We're not really salesy. It's more of just let's learn about your background, and our team will explain what we do, and that's on Ascend's website at www.ascend ecom.com. So ascendecom.com, ECOM, and then YouTube is Ascend Ecom. And then we also have obviously our Instagram, which is probably the most robust in terms of posting. We'll probably have videos from this podcast specific, or this showing, as well as multiple other different things around the industry and what's sort of happening update wise with the company. That's
Okay.
at Ascend_ECOM, ASCEND_ECOM. So you can find us there.
All right. Thank you, Will, for being on the show. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Next week, I have Tommy Breedlove, and we're going to talk about how we can make you build a legendary life. Thank you, and have a great night.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You are clear.
Wow.
All right, guys. You have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, Magnus.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Right,
take care. Thank you, Will, for your time. That was very educational. And I had a good time with it. Honestly, that was a great show.
We talked about a lot of stuff, man. That was cool. I liked how, that was good. That was good. That's going to be some good content for us too, because we talked on some subjects that were a little bit, past the surface, which was nice. So yeah, I'd love to get this recording whenever you can send it over our way in a Google Drive or something. I got a great video editing team too, so we can sort of cross post and send you some cool stuff as well. If we connect we're mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn, but yeah, so
absolutely, because I'm actually gonna stop the recording.